mind being wrong on video, but yeah. So you want to kind of give it a feel and see where you're thickest, and feel your bottom, and make sure you've got enough space in there. I've left this quite thick, so I've got plenty to trim out. And I've got a curious little lump here. So I'm gonna make sure that I take that out because it doesn't appear on the inside. So I'm just gonna make sure that that goes away. Go.
Just in that one spot you have it, or all
Just
the way
there.
around?
Yep. It's a little thinner here, and actually it's probably about equal there, but that's where the thickness starts. So I'm just gonna mark, even though I can see it, I'm gonna mark it just for good form, and then look at the inside. Give myself a mark on the outside. You don't want too narrow a foot on a plate because it's for a couple of reasons. One, it makes your plate less stable, and two, if you are asking, this is a very very bold plate, but if you were asking that flange, that lip, to go out into space really far unsupported, then the odds are it's going to fall. Even if you've got a nice curve on the inside, you can still fall out. All right, so now I'm going to do that centering thing. My concentric circles are going to be my friends, but I'm going to try not to put it perfect so that you guys can see how that works. Yep, that should be off. Ooh, by a lot. Okay, we'll move it a little bit. There we go. Okay, so just like everything else, 2 hands, 1 tool. I'm bracing myself so that when the pot touches me, I don't move a whole bunch. Okay, I gotta get a little closer.
What if your edges are jet, you know?
If your edges are crusty,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like here.
then go below.
Okay, true.
Yeah,
True.
because there's, just find the most uniform spot.
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
a good question.
That
That's
makes
what
more
I
sense.
Because all of
Yeah.
mine will come away.
And that's one of the reasons why I have you guys clean those off. Because it's so much easier to center if you don't have a craggy edge sticking out at you. And also, if you forget to trim, then you don't have to worry too much about that edge. Okay, so yeah, that's about right. Because this is the rubber bat, I'm not going to put wads on it. I don't use the rubber bat very often, so I'm going to make sure that I keep it pinned. There we go. So I took my mark and I made it a circle so that I know where to stop. And I'm just going to take down some of this clay.
Nice. Thank you. Just a second.
Absolutely.
And he marked where you were going to make that circle?
Yes.
Circle ahead of time?
Yes.
Or are you just doing it by the amount of space like,
When I looked at the other side of the pot, I decided where I wanted the outside of my foot ring to be.
Okay.
So I marked that with my fingernail and just a little tiny bit.
and then when you're going to do it, do you have like a specific thickness that you're going to
for the
make
foot
that
ring.
foot
Um,
ring?
I don't have a specific thickness. It just it usually turns out to be about that wide, and then I will change it from there. Sometimes, not very often, because I'm not a fan of enormous bulby feet, but sometimes they look great on a pot. Sometimes I'll make it wider and then just make a broad foot. But actually, on a low rounded bowl, a nice wide foot is nice, especially if you've got a nice wide rim. So you do that more on things with big flanges. So I'm going to take off clay on the outside. Make a little tuck there and then just start coming down. And when it gets to be too much, there's that. If you can keep it out of your splash pan, awesome. One less thing to clean out. So I don't know if you can tell by watching, but every time I come away, before I come away, I'm going to pause for a couple of seconds and then come away. Just like when I'm throwing, I don't want to just take my hand away, because then I'm going to, make a chip in the pot or make a spot that hasn't been trimmed in the same location. So I'm going to come up and just round the outside to mirror the inside. This is one of the reasons this is one of my favorite tools. because it's just got that nice wide flat area, so I can just roll back and forth.
So when you have these little buddies,
Mm-hmm.
what are they called again? Worms? You can't get all the way down, you know, like I've been trying to like trim the full length of it and then I get there and I can't, you know, then I have this weird lip.
So then you have to take it off. You have to take the little guys off, hold the top of it, and
Hold the
very
top,
carefully while
okay.
praying out loud.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah,
or
okay.
however you become a supplicant to the universe. You're just like,
Got it.
please, please don't let this come off.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
you can take them off, but I just recommend you do that very last
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So it's not going to be a super tall foot, even though those are kind of fun. I do have a bit of room. I don't want to stress this area too much because this is where it's going to get to be thinnest, and that is where it's most likely to just kind of flop over to go too far. So I'm going to get the inside, and I do remember that I've got a pretty thick bottom there. Come here, buddy. And even when I'm grabbing the clay off of it, I'm still supporting my tool with my other hand. I'm gonna start taking off some of the bottom, because remember, we don't want the point to be higher than the foot. So I usually start, when I start to make the little point, I'll take some off immediately. Because as funny as they are, in theory, they are less funny when you're all finished and you've got this gorgeous little bowl, and it spins when you turn it. So.
For me, what's hard is to know how much pressure I should be, you know, I'm like, too much pressure, and that's
When you go through,
yeah.
it really is by feel, just enough so that you're pulling up, just enough so the clay is coming up, but not so much that it's
gonna take a big chunk off.
Right. Yeah. You just want to actually. Can I see your finger for a second? About like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to push so hard that you're hurting it. Think about yeah. It is almost the consistency of skin, because you're just pushing gently into it. Granted, you don't want to take skin off, but there you go. So I'm going to come up and give it that little tuck under there. Okay, I'm going to tap it, which everybody seems to do, but nobody seems to know how to explain, and I'm no different. So I'm going to tap it and get a feel for it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little thinner over here than it is here, but I'm going to leave it alone. It also feels, it's quite damp. If you press down on it really gently and it gives, then you're in the danger zone, and you should consider it beautiful and just go on to trimming another part of it or be done. Okay, so at this point, this is where a lot of people, when they're beginning, stop. They're like, okay, look, I've got a foot, fantastic, I'm done. You're not quite done. It's a little rough still. So we're going to clean it up. See these multi-levels here? We want to clean those. I'm still going to put my finger on the center, but just to steady myself. I'm not pressing down. I'm just using it for balance. So I'm going to tuck in here and clean that up, which of course creates another line that I'm going to have to clean up in a minute. But I'm going to go here and take my little bevel and then come here, do another little bevel. And then, because this is still wet enough, I can clean up that right there with my finger. Make sure that bevel isn't too sharp. And I'm going to come in here, take out that line. And there we go. Take off the boogers. See if I've got a little tiny one in here. I do. I recommend keeping a tiny set if you really like a smooth surface. you can come in and take out some of the trimming marks because the trim tool is going to catch the grog no matter what you do. This is just a way to make it tidier. So, yeah. There we go. Now let's now remember you've just taken a bunch of its support off. So especially if it's a little bit damp, when you flip it, it's really easy to torque it or cause it some distress. I'm just really gently gonna flip it over and give it a feel. Yep, and that's pretty uniform. So let's see. Let's hold it up and see. There we go. Yeah, so that's a nice little hole.